Hi guys, today's review is going to be of an old tank. This one's for the German Tier 8 premium heavy tank, the Lowe. This is a tank that faces up to Tier 10. It's got a 60% silver bonus, which is nice, so it's great for earning silver. It's quite expensive, at over 12k gold I believe. This review is going to be a bit different, because instead of commentating on my own gameplay, I'm going to commentate on one of my friends, which is Jocko 3000. We were playing and I said that was after making a review for the tank. So I'm in mine and he jumped in his, and then he kindly offered to let me use his gameplay for the review. As I said, the Lowe is an old tank. It's been in the game all the way. Initially it was one of the only tier 8 heavies that you could get. There was the T-34, the American, and the IS-6, which had preferential matchmaking. And even back then, it wasn't amazing. The tank struggled with mobility, its armour wasn't great, its rate of fire was, and still is, pretty terrible. It had OK gun depression, but it wasn't amazing. It wasn't a very good tank for the money you had to pay for it. Then a while ago, Wargaming buffed it. They gave it more gun depression, they made it faster, and they gave it a bit of an armour buff as well. The tank always used to be good in a kind of support sniper kind of role. The gun has always been accurate, and it's always had really good penetration values. So the tank could do that quite well. Let's say you're in a tier 10 game, hang back a little bit, play support, and you can pick off weak spots on tier 10s. Even heavily armoured ones, because the premium APCR shell on this thing gets about 294mm a pen. So the premium shell's got near to 300mm of penetration. That's close to a Jagdpanzer U100, which is quite impressive. However, since Wargaming buffed it, the mobility and the armour buff, when you combine them together, means that when this tank is top tier, like it is in this game, it can get stuck in like we are doing now, and it can brawl quite well. We're up against the 252U here. Me and Jocko are taking turns to put shots into him, and because of the accuracy of the gun and the high penetration values, an Object 252 isn't really much of a threat to it. At least not unless it's, you know, well, I'd say not unless it's like face hugging you, but with the gun depression and that, you can just shoot down through the roof in this tank. It's quite a lot better now. A lot more versatile. When you're bottom tier, you can still fall back on that sniping role, but when you're top tier, you can brawl a bit and take some, block some damage for the team. I was going to say take some, but you don't have to actually take if you can avoid it. Let's find the artillery. Unfortunately, the shot doesn't hit. He doesn't want to hang around, so he's going to push up, because this side of the map is fairly empty, so that means the enemies are all on the other side. And they're all sat on that ridge. It looks like Joe's plan is to advance using the houses as cover. In the old Lowe, this would have been tricky. It was slow, really slow. So crossing any kind of open ground to get to cover, it'd normally send you back to the garage, but the tank is faster than it used to be now. Snapshot's quite well too, as well, as you just saw there. So he's pushing up. You can see the Tiger 2 is on low health, but Jocko's not daft. He's also aware that there's plenty of other red tanks around there. So he's not going any further than these houses at the moment, because he's obviously detected that he's gone further just enough to try putting a shot into the Japanese heavy. His shot missed, the Japanese heavy missed, however the cover's destructible. So Jocko's not after hanging around behind that house anymore, because one more shot and it'd be gone and it wouldn't be cover anymore. Unfortunately, it does take a hit from an AT-15 that damages the engine. Fixed it, and he's found a Borsig that shot him earlier. As I said, the rate of fire on this tank isn't great at all. The average damage is about 320, you're looking at about 10-second reload, it might even be a bit longer, so it's not very good. However, this Borsig is dead anyway. Another teammate shot it, and Jocko's next shot is going to send that player back to the garage. The rate of fire is slow, but the damage it does pump out is reliable. It's a bit of a weird one. Having higher DPM is obviously always nice, but some tanks have got high DPM, but they struggle to utilise that DPM because, for instance, the gun might not be good or the penetration might be bad. So whilst the DPM on paper is pretty good, the actual in-game DPM might not be that high because the gun just isn't as reliable. This gun has low DPM, about 1600. However, it's accurate and it's high pen. So this is going to pen most of its shots, whereas some of the other tier 8 heavies might not be able to realise their actual DPM potential that they have. It's something worth bearing in mind. There are some players out there who are just amazing, you know, and they can maximise the DPM of any tank. But for most of us, I'd say this is it's a decent tank for actually getting the DPM out there. Having about 10 seconds in between the shots gives you plenty of time to pick a new target, as Joe's doing here, is looking around, seeing which targets are exposed. So he knows where to actually put his next shot. It means he's not risking getting tunnel visioned trying to put, you know, loads of shots onto one target. Now the Ferdinand died unfortunately, but he's provided Jocko with some cover on the right hand side at least. He's hold down here whilst he's engaging the French tier 8 tank destroyer. The Jocko's got the advantage against the tier 8 TD, but just there he was checking for that Emil. Obviously that tank's on auto loader and it could hurt him quite a lot if he starts putting shots in his side. So he's backing off, looking for it. The Emil's showing up over there, so he knows he's safe from his right hand side for now. Now some noob over there has just charged the T28 prototype, thinking that they'd be able to take it out easy enough. And said noob is going to realise that once the T28 prototype gets down to 72 health, it becomes invincible, and Scrub over there, Rest No More, is going to die in a minute for his mistake. Yep, dead. T28 prototype is still alive, bounces yet another shot. It'll die in a minute, thankfully. Jocko was after pushing up here. Probably thought I'd be able to take out the T28 prototype. Obviously underestimated how much of a scrub I am. Now the Tiger 2 is in front, it's on low hit points. At this point in time, a worse player might have just tried going straight for the Tiger 2 there, thinking it's an easy kill. Jocko, however, is aware that there is an Emil 1 round here somewhere, and it's probably got a clip loaded. But instead of going over the hill and risking showing his weak lower plates, he's going around instead. Checking on the Tiger 2, but it's on the other side of the hill, so he's safe to engage the Emil. Even so, he's keeping his tank angled, and he's going to use this hill between them to keep himself hold down, hoping to only expose the turret. Manages to bounce a shot from the Emil 1. He's going to go forwards for his reloads and then back off. It's just to keep the exposure of his own tank minimal, because he doesn't want to eat a clip from that tank. To keep the subplate angled, it's not so bad. Now, however, the Emil is pretty much dead, so I don't think Jocko minded taking a hit there because the Tiger 1 was dead anyway, so it was going to be the end of the game. I'll try and see if I can bring up the end of screen result thing. It would come up with mine if it does it, but I could go across to Jocko's game. It looked like it got about 18 pens there, so some of them were kill shots, about 4.5k damage I believe he did in that one, maybe even a bit more. However, the replay system has decided it's not going to come up with a log. God's law, when I want it to, it's not done. I'll see if I can find it in the log in the garage itself. Give me a sec. Didn't play many games last time I was on, so hopefully it will still be there. No, it's not. Oh well, that's a shame. Either way though, he had a good game. It showed that the tank's punchier engine can be used well, that it can engage. Tank's close up, that the armor's a lot more reliable. It's certainly a far better tank than it used to be. Shame it costs so much. I'll bring up the stat page for it and we can have a look at the gun's values and things. The engine, 1000 horsepower, which is pretty good. The tank is heavy though, so it doesn't zoom about, but it's faster than it used to be. Penetration values are both really good. The aiming time 2.86, that seems pretty hefty, but in game it feels a lot better than that, so I wouldn't let that put you off. The view range is 400, which is good. It means if you want to build this with a view range build, you know, all the crew skills, optics, all that kind of stuff, then you can, and this tank is more than capable of spotting its own targets. However, I've opted for rammer, vert stabs and vents just to try and keep that DPM going. Bring up the army. The upper plate is better than it used to be. The side armor's always been okay for side scraping. The lower plate, just below the red bar, there's 2 lower plates on this tank. The initial lower plate is weaker than the upper. The upper plate is 150, it's angled a bit. That means if you angle your tank yourself as well, when you're top tier, it's quite reliable. Unlike things like the Tiger 2 run things, this doesn't have any kind of machine gun port weakness on. The cheeks of the turret are a bit weaker. With the side armour, the tank's good at side scraping. It's got minus 10 degrees gun depression, so it's good at hull down as well. The problem when you're side scraping, however, is the engine deck at the back is raised up a little bit. I'll come off this view because it's hard to tell with all the colours. Go back to the normal tank. Right, if we look at the engine deck here, you can see it's raised up a bit. The part of the armour where it's actually raised is paper thin. And that can be hard to hit against leather that's side scraping at this kind of angle. A lot of people, however, tend to over-angle the side scraping. They've got the concept, but not quite the right angles nailed down yet. And there can be a bit of a steeper angle. And if you're on an urban map, fairly close to the tank, that spot, even though it looks quite small, I exploit that on enemy leather drivers quite a lot, to be fair. There's something to bear in mind. Like I said, it's not a huge weak spot, but if you can get a shot on it, I'd exploit so. But that's the leather. It's a reliable tank. It's slow, but it earns a lot of money, and I do quite enjoy it despite the low DPM. I still wouldn't pay full price for it. As always, wait for a sale. I don't think it's worth paying full price for any tank on this game anymore. Thanks Jocko for letting me use your gameplay, and thanks to you guys for watching my video. Cheers.